Okay, welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right? You Google startup SEO and just get absolutely buried under advice. It's a lot.
It really is like
Yeah.
an avalanche of must-dos,
Yeah,
and you end up feeling more confused than when you started.
exactly. So today, we're going to try and cut through some of that. We're focusing on what actually works, what really moves the needle for startups doing SEO based on some really practical stuff.
Yeah, we're looking at a post from the Post Hog blog. It's quite grounded, which is nice.
Right. And the author isn't just, an SEO theorist. They've got something like 20 years in publishing, writing, editing, and they were part of growing Post Hog to serious revenue. So real world experience.
Been in the trenches, basically. That's what makes it interesting. So the idea here is to give you, our listeners, some clarity, maybe some non-obvious strategies that go beyond the usual fluff.
All right, let's get into it. Where do they start? They kick off with this idea of defensive SEO. Not a term you hear every day, maybe.
No, it's interesting. It's less about grabbing massive traffic right away and more about protecting your turf, you could say.
Protecting your turf. How so?
Well, it means ranking for specific terms related to your brand and your direct competitors, things like Post-Hog versus Sentry in their case. Or maybe how to integrate your tool with, I don't know, Slack or Jira.
Ah, okay. So comparison pages, integration guides.
Exactly. And searches like best product analytics tools or whatever your category is. You want to be there when people are making those direct comparisons or looking for solutions in your space.
It's like staking your claim early before a competitor dominates those specific high-intent searches.
Precisely. And the traffic might not be huge for each individual term, but think about the intent. Someone searching us versus them. That's a potential customer actively deciding.
Yeah, that's a hot lead.
Totally. And the article stresses this isn't just for immediate sales. It's great for word of mouth, too. Even if they don't buy now, seeing a fair comparison helps establish you.
And they make a good point about how to do these comparisons, right? Not just shouting, we're better.
Oh, definitely. That's key. Focus on differentiation.
Mm,
How are you different? What's your unique value? Let the user decide what's better for them. It's almost like early sales collateral.
that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's defensive SEO. What about the tools needed? Startups often feel like they need this huge, expensive tech stack for SEO.
Yeah, and Post Hoc really pushes back on that. They advocate for keeping it minimal, really minimal.
Okay, like what?
Basically, three things. One, an all-in-one tool. They use Ahrefs, but, SEMrush, Moz, others work too. For ranked tracking, keyword ideas, competitor stuff, the basics.
Uh-huh. One main platform.
Then Google Search Console, non-negotiable. And it's free. Crucial for spotting technical issues, seeing what queries people actually use to find you, performance data, all that good stuff.
Right, can't really do SEO without Search Console.
And the third one they like is Keywords Everywhere. It's a browser extension, pretty cheap, just adds keyword volume and related ideas right into your Google searches, Search Console, other places, makes research quicker.
So just those three, really.
That's their core stack. The main message is avoid tool paralysis.
Yeah.
Don't spend all your time messing with tools instead of actually, creating the content.
Huh, yeah. I could see how that happens. You get lost in the data instead of doing the work.
Exactly. The tools are helpers, not the main event. The main event is understanding your audience and writing useful stuff.
Which is a great lead-in to their next point, which feels a bit counterintuitive, focusing on low-volume keywords.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. We're often told to go for the big keywords, the ones with thousands of searches.
Right, the vanity metrics sometimes.
But they argue there's huge power in the niche stuff, the super specific searches. They used an example, Electron Analytics.
Okay, Electron Analytics. How niche is that?
Like 30 searches a month, ARIS keyword difficulty, 0. So it's pointless, right?
On the surface, yeah, 30 searches.
That one page targeting that tiny keyword was getting them about 5 unique users a day.
Wait, 5 a day from 30 searches a month? How does that work?
Well, maybe the search volume estimate is low, or maybe those 30 searches are exactly the right people, super high intent. But anyway, 5 users a day. That's like 1,800 users a year. Highly relevant users.
Wow. Okay. From one seemingly tiny keyword.
And that's the key. Imagine you do that for, say, 100 of these low-volume, high-specificity keywords. Suddenly, you're not talking small numbers anymore. You're potentially talking, tens or hundreds of thousands of very targeted visitors over a year.
Because each searcher has a very specific problem they need solving, and your content addresses that problem.
Exactly. The specificity means less competition and often much higher conversion rates. You find these using tools like Ahrefs or Keywords Everywhere. digging into those long-tail specific queries.
Okay, that's a powerful perspective shift. Now let's talk about Google itself. The article has this uh, provocative heading. Google is dumber than you think. What's
Oh.
behind that?
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that a bit.
Yeah.
It's not literally saying Google is dumb. The algorithms are incredibly complex.
Right.
The point is more nuanced. It's that Google doesn't understand content as a human does. It doesn't read your blog post and appreciate your elegant prose or deep insights in the same way.
So how does it judge quality then?
Primarily through user interaction signals,
Mm-hmm.
clicks, bounce rates, dwell time. They even quote some legal document where Google basically admitted they rely heavily on how users interact with the search results.
So if someone clicks your link, hates the page, and immediately clicks back to Google.
Bingo. Bad signal.
Hmm.
Google thinks, okay, that result wasn't useful. If they click, stay, maybe click another link on your site.
Good signal. Okay, so what does this mean for us, for startups doing SEO?
Well, first, the basics matter. Your site needs to be technically sound. Easy for Google's bots to crawl and understand. Machine readable is the term they use. Clean code, good structure.
Makes sense. Technical SEO foundation.
But just as important, maybe more important, is that first impression for the user. Don't annoy them. Fast loading times, easy navigation, especially on mobile. No horrible pop-ups the second they land.
So user experience is paramount because it directly influences those signals Google cares about.
Precisely. And this is why content quality, genuine quality,
Mm.
still matters immensely. Even if Google isn't reading it like a person, good content keeps people engaged. It makes them stay. It earns those positive signals. They mentioned checking out Barry Adams' work on links and clicks too, for a deeper dive on that.
Okay, so make it technically accessible for Google, but optimize the experience for humans. Because happy humans send good signals.
You got it. Which flows nicely into the next point. Focus on solving real user problems.
Sounds simple, but probably gets lost when you're just chasing keywords sometimes.
Totally. It's easy to just write for the keyword. But look at their example, their guide on event tracking. It brings in something like 1,000 search visitors a month now.
Okay, decent traffic.
But here's the thing. They didn't originally write it for SEO. They wrote it because their users needed help understanding event tracking, a core part of their product. It solved a genuine user pain point.
And because it was genuinely helpful.
It naturally started ranking and attracting search traffic for related terms. It shows the power of good documentation, actually.
Yeah. Documentation is often seen as just a cost center, but it can be a huge SEO asset if it solves real problems, clearly.
Absolutely. Serves existing users and attracts new ones. Win-win.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Core Web Vitals. Everyone stresses about these scores, LCP, INP, CLS. Do you need perfect scores?
Well, according to PostHog, even Google themselves, stressing about perfect scores is probably misplaced effort.
Really? You hear so much about optimizing them.
And they are important for user experience, don't get me wrong. LCP is about loading speed, INP is about interactivity, CLS is about visual stability. You don't want pages jumping around.
Right, that's annoying.
But Google folks, like developer advocates and John Mueller, have basically said relevance is more important. Great content on a slightly slower page will likely still outrank mediocre content on a lightning-fast page. Perfect scores aren't a magic ranking button.
So don't ignore them, but don't obsess.
Exactly. PostHog even admits their own scores aren't perfect. They still have room for improvement. The advice is, get them into a decent, acceptable range, make sure the user experience isn't bad, but then focus your main energy on the content and overall UX.
That's quite freeing, actually. Okay, now for a tough one. The classic complaint. Our content is great, why isn't it ranking?
Yes. The "my baby is beautiful" syndrome applied to content.
Pretty much. How does PostHog tackle this?
With some refreshing honesty, basically. They say, look, truly great content is way rarer than people think. Their estimate, maybe less than 10% of content truly qualifies as exceptional.
Ouch. So step one is honest self-assessment.
Definitely. They offer a kind of mental checklist like, does your content go beyond just a basic explanation? AI can do that now.
Good point.
Is it opinionated? Does it actually make recommendations? Would you proudly share it with someone smart in your field? Does it genuinely help someone decide something or solve a complex problem?
Those are high bars.
They are. But that's what often separates top-ranking content. It has a strong point of view, deep insight, or provides exceptional clarity or utility. The advice is to really study what is ranking number one for your target terms. Be critical. What are they doing well? and how can you genuinely do it better?
Not just longer or with more keywords, but actually better for the user.
Exactly. More insightful, more actionable, clearer, more engaging.
Okay, that requires some humility. Now let's up timing. For a startup, when should you really lean into SEO? Is it day one?
This is another really insightful point they make. The common advice is start early. It takes time, which is true. But PostHog argues strongly that you should wait until you have product market fit before making a major SEO investment.
Interesting. Why?
Well, think about their timeline. They didn't really go hard on SEO until about 2 years after they founded the company.
2 years? That feels late by conventional wisdom.
Right. But by then, they had real revenue.
Right.
They knew exactly who their ideal customer was. They had strong retention proof that the product was solving a real need and people were sticking around.
So they weren't optimizing for a vague audience or a product that might pivot drastically.
Exactly. They had stability. They knew their efforts wouldn't be wasted targeting the wrong people or promoting features that might disappear.
Right.
Plus, their website, especially the docs, already had some authority built up. They had a solid foundation.
And that focus paid off.
Hugely. They saw meaningful results in 3 months, serious growth in 6, and tripled traffic in a year once they really committed with product market fit.
So the advice for really early stage startups.
Focus on the absolute basics. Make sure your site can be indexed. Create helpful content for your initial users, maybe some of that defensive SEO stuff. But don't pour massive resources into broad SEO campaigns until you know you have a product people want and who those people are.
That makes a ton of strategic sense. Okay, final big questions. AI, ChatGPT is huge. Does SEO even matter anymore?
The existential question. Their answer is a clear yes, your startup still needs SEO.
Why, when AI search might take over?
Well, first, scale. Even with AI assistants getting traffic, Google's overall search volume is still astronomically larger. It's where most people look for things, still.
Okay, fair point. Sheer volume.
Second, those AI models need content to learn from and synthesize answers. You want your high-quality content to be discoverable by them, to inform the answers they give about your space. If you're invisible, you're not part of the conversation.
So being findable helps train the AI, in a way.
Sort of, or at least ensures your perspective is included. So the advice isn't necessarily bet the farm on SEO, but recognize it's still a vital channel. Diversify, yes, build your email list, build community, but don't abandon search.
Okay, makes sense. So SEO is still needed. What's the final takeaway then? Is there a secret sauce?
The secret, according to PostHog, is there's no secret. It's mostly about good habits. Discipline, consistency.
Like what kind of habits?
Things like regularly updating your old content. Manually adding internal links sounds tedious, but helps Google connect the dots. Writing genuinely compelling headlines people want to click. Paying attention to detail in the writing itself.
So craftsmanship matters.
Absolutely. Always looking for new content opportunities. Backing up claims with evidence. Basically treating your content like something a real human would value and enjoy reading.
And avoiding the temptation to just try and game the system.
Yeah, they caution against that, trying to find loopholes or cheat. Google usually catches up eventually. It's about sustainable, user-focused practices. They even point out the author ranks #1 for their own name, just by practicing what they preach.
Right, build it right, and results follow. Okay, so wrapping this all up, it sounds like effective startup SEO is less about chasing algorithms and more about fundamentals. Understand users, solve their problems, be consistent.
That's a great summary. It's about cutting through the noise, focusing on what actually creates value for the user, which in turn tends to create value in search rankings.
And hopefully some of these maybe less obvious points we've discussed today will help you, our listeners, navigate this whole complex world a bit more effectively.
Yeah, give you some practical things to try or think about differently.
Which leads us to our final thought for you to ponder. That balance between really digging into search optimization techniques versus just focusing purely on creating amazing content for your users. Where do you think the sweet spot lies for your specific startup right now? Something to mull over.
Great question. Thanks for diving deep with us today.